my small team of three. We shot down 5 SCUD missiles, and I actually enjoyed it. Now, I would never, ever want to do it again, just like West Point. I would never want to do West Point again, Beast Barracks, Plebe. I'd never want to be in combat again. But I will say that I enjoyed it, and I will especially say I'm very, very glad that I did it. Something I'm proud of, each of those things.
Welcome to the Courage Never Quits podcast, where members of the West Point class of 1986 tell their stories. I'm your host, Paul LaFontaine. My guest today is Bill Weas Pursel, Cullum number 43591. We'll hear about Weas jamming waterbeds into his lieutenant bachelor pad and his deadeye skills knocking down SCUD missiles. As always, the views expressed in this podcast are those of the participants and not of West Point, the Army, or any organization, most particularly 7-Eleven, Inc. Bill Weas Pursel, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Pilaf. Good to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here. You are an icon in my world because you were in G3, I was in I3, and we always went down the hall to visit Weas for a laugh.
We had a lot of fun characters. Gophers 86, definitely a great group.
Absolutely. And you're in Colorado. I'm in Colorado. So though Colorado's a big state and we don't live next to each other, it gives us at least a little bit in common.
Great state. I love it.
Fantastic. How did you end up there? What was the story, but what took you to Colorado?
You know, my wife worked for United Airlines, started out with Continental Airlines, but then United after the merger. And she worked there for several decades. We took advantage of the flight benefits. We went to all 50 states together. None of those were drive-bys. It was just, we spent time in all 50 states together. And we said, when we become empty nesters, where do we want to settle down and move? And we picked our first choice all over the entire country was Denver. Our second choice, coincidentally, was Colorado Springs. We just had great times in both of those two towns. So Denver happened to be, and still is, a United Airlines hub. So she put in for a transfer. We got the chance to move from Ohio to Denver. That was 9 years ago, and we absolutely love it.
You've been an empty nester for 9 years?
Since our youngest went off to college, yes.
And where are your kids now?
Cincinnati.
Really?
Where they were raised.
Okay. Both of them are there?
We have a 1-year-old grandson with my youngest daughter. Unfortunately, a few years back, we lost a daughter.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah. It's something that never goes away. It's something that is, just a constant something missing. But had some incredible memories with her. And our other daughter is in Cincinnati, where she settled down with her high school sweetheart, and they've got a 1-year-old, and we're going back for the birthday party in 2 weeks.
Oh, good for you.
Looking forward to it.
Grandchildren getting ready for the spoiling of the next generation, which is what grandparents
Absolutely.
are doing. So let's go. You grew up in Pennsylvania.
Yes, northeastern Pennsylvania, not too far from New York and New Jersey, drivable to West Point. And I'm the only one that escaped. My parents and my 3 siblings all lived back there in the same little hick town that I grew up in.
1982, young Bill Pursel, what captured your attention about West Point?
More than anything else, I come from a very patriotic family. I definitely wanted to serve in the military. The other thing, I come from a blue-collar family. If I hadn't gone to West Point, I don't know that I would have been able to even go to college. I could have gotten some academic scholarships, I really needed a full scholarship in order to attend college, and obviously West Point provided that. So it was a natural fit for me. Prestigious organization, patriotic, free, combine all of those, and I was thrilled to get in.
Now, did you get a chance to visit because you were so close when you were in high school? Did you visit the academy?
I did one time, and it. I don't think it prepared me for our day. I don't know that anything would, but I will say, I was thoroughly impressed. Like any tourist would be, with the beauty and the scenery and everything else. But I will also say, I did not expect what we got for Beast Barracks. I mean, everybody knew, yeah, it's military, and I was not anticipating hazing. I wasn't anticipating that it was going to suck, for however many weeks that we were in Beast Barracks. I certainly was not anticipating what July 1st and July 2nd were going to be like. So that was kind of a shock to me. I saw the movies, in the like Stripes, and it wasn't quite that fun.
Yeah, that is such a Weas thing to say. I thought it was going to be like Stripes.
Yeah, that's a fact, Jack.
What were you known for in high school? Were you an athlete, or are you a studier?
A little of both. More than anything, probably chess. I won a state high school chess championship my senior year. All 4 years, I won our district chess championship, and I was on the state wrestling championship team as a starter, but I was not even close to the reason that I was. As
Yeah.
far as our 12 varsity starters went, I had a winning record, but I probably had possibly the worst record of anyone in our starting varsity team. So
Right.
I got a state champion wrestling jacket, uh, varsity, etc. But again, I was if there was a weakest link on our team, if there was a time that we beat a team like 48-3, I was the one that gave up the
You were the
three.
three. Well, at least you gave the opponent some dignity. That's your contribution.
There you go. I never looked at it that way.
We're here to learn. We're here to learn. What? So our day, a real shocker. Did you do any preparation for the academy, or you just show up?
I just showed up. I will say I did get a haircut prior to our day. Nothing like what I got on our day.
Right.
I had relatively short hair, but nothing like an our day cut. Their guys, showed up with full mops, full head of hair, and that's always a funny moment when you see them. It seems like the barbers take extra joy in in chopping someone off who's got shoulder length hair. Yeah, I will say I was like I already mentioned, I was kind of shocked at just the culture shock of what our day was.
So how did you get through it mentally? What was it? What was your way of handling it?
I truly just tried to make it to the end of the day, and you're not. There's no way that you're going to make it through the day without getting in trouble. But it just seemed like my goal for at least the first year, not only Beast Barracks, but I just wanted to make it through the end of the day with getting in as little trouble as possible and not getting kicked out. And those are not lofty goals, but
Hey, they're very useful.
yes, survive and advance.
Which company were you in? Which part of the Corps were you in as a plebe?
As a beanhead, I was in H4, Go Hogs.
Mhm.
I don't remember a lot about it. Uh, the one person that we're still dear friends to this day, 40 years later, the one person that went from H4 to G3 with me was Rob Lott, Gunther.
And then plebe year, how was H4? I was in C4 right across the area from you. How was H4? Were they a Hayes company or was it kind of more relaxed? How were they?
I thought it was a Hayes company, but after stories that I heard from other people, horror stories, I don't know. Maybe I downplay, how difficult, challenging things are. But after hearing some of the other stories from classmates of ours, I came away with the conclusion that I guess we didn't have it that bad in H4.
How did you find the academics?
I thought freshman year, plebe year was the most challenging. I had gone from a 4.0 in high school to, you know, barely missing 3.0 Dean's List plebe year, and then there were quite a few times I was never close to being a star man, but there were quite a few semesters, upper class years, where I hit 3.0 and above.
Okay.
But not neither semester plebe year did I hit 3.0.
Okay. All right. So academics, you had to apply yourself, but it wasn't a struggle.
Yeah. Later years, I got a reputation, yearling Cal first year, of quote never ever ever opening a book, which is a slight exaggeration.
Right.
I got decent grades with very minimal effort in terms of academics. Our final 3 years.
Now G3, you made the transition over to yearling year. What was that like?
It was great. I was not a hazing upperclassman. I think I had a lot more compassion than some of our classmates did. And I would base that off of just how challenging plebe year was.
Mm-hmm.
It's never been my goal to bully people. And, you could go either way on that. You could say, well, it's good for them to learn discipline, et cetera. Yes, I agree 100%. And they're getting that, whether I'm going to be a jerk or not, they're going to get that discipline. But I was more, I don't know. As a squad leader, I was very good to my plebes, making sure that they, were comfortable and were able to do what they needed to do to get by.
Our battalion in Third Regiment was it was a funny one because you had you had a lot of constituents. So you had the people who were very disciplined. You had people who were less so. I think I3, like our company, like yours, was there was a lot of personality differences versus like an A1 where everyone's go go go, right?
Yes, we had what I would call two factions in G3. Mm-hmm. We had the happy furs who were just trying to get along, cooperate and graduate, have as much fun as we could, occasionally break the rules. And then you had the duty furs who seemed to be their, even as your own classmates, seemed to be their goal to kind of keep us in check. And, it's bad enough when the upperclassmen, are all over you. But, for your own classmates, that's like almost like friendly fire. Not cool.
Yeah. We some of your most memorable roommates. What who did you room with?
My last semester, first year, was Landon Lack. Mm-hmm. We had a lot of fun. As firsties, especially second semester, you get away with a lot. And so we had a tendency to blare music. We had similar, I'll say, alternative rock music taste. And so we always had music going, door open. Occasionally someone would come by and ask us to, turn it down or off. Another good time was Ross Clemens and I roomed together twice. Mm-hmm. One time that we were roommates, we had Dan Sauter, football player, and I'm still really close friends, obviously, with both Ross and Dan. So Ross always had, I don't know if I should tell this, but Ross always had a a Bible that was carved out, and you could put hidden things, bottles inside of this. And so Ross and I had, on many occasions, we had a chance to celebrate any of our accomplishments.
You would go chapter by verse.
Chapter by verse. Yes, it's funny because you can come up with some actual verses that would lend itself to, God wants us to be happy, so let's drink. But a vivid memory that I have is Ross and I wrestling Dan Sauter 2-on-1,
right.
sort of like Andre the Giant. Would oftentimes he would get in the ring, and as I recall, I think Dan had about as much success as Andre the Giant did.
Yeah, Dan was in my plebe company, so I knew Dan very well, and he was.
And you still made it through, despite that.
He was a man of great strength in those days.
Yes,
he still is,
yes.
Of course. He's a man of great character as well, but he was a.
Yes,
they really,
he raised four great sons.
Yeah.
He's got he has a West Point grad and an Air Force Academy grad.
Yep, he's definitely helped create the next generation.
Sure does.
What did you study when you were there? What was your course of study?
I took all the engineering courses that most of us took, as far as specialized business management.
And how was that as a degree? Did you get a lot from that, or was that just a course of study that?
I did. When I left the military in '93, I went into sales, and I was in sales and sales management for several decades, from '93 until about 2014. I was with a company for 20-something years called Lawson Products, selling automotive and industrial repair products. And I ran the military government sales division when our department was eliminated in 2013. And the reason for that was, the military, we had sold the military millions of dollars every time any unit would deploy to Iraq and Afghanistan. And when we pulled out, that just dried up and went down to zero.
Yeah, it slows things down a little bit when the war stops, darn it.
Yeah. And, we weren't our competitors also eliminated, that department. So it wasn't a surprise when it happened. But, as my wife and I, soon after that, we moved to the Denver area. Mm-hmm. And it's the first time in my adult life that I was, out of work. So that was a unique challenge. I actually drove the brown UPS truck for a while.
You did?
I did a mail carrier route for a while.
Wow.
And then I then went with United Airlines catering operations. I got some food safety certifications. So I was a food production manager, quality assurance manager, and I moved from there over to 7-Eleven, similar role, about 6.5 years ago. I've been with 7-Eleven ever since.
Let's head back to the academy real quick. Air Defense Artillery, when did you know that was your branch?
Well, you can't spell badass without ADA. That's a fact. I knew I wanted to go combat arms.
Yeah.
And more than anything else, there were a couple of us in '86 that decided that we were going to pick the same duty station. So it was a matter of where could we all get in, and we chose Fort Hood. Interesting story. I went down to Fort Hood, arrived there around the same time as Joe DePinto, and Joe and I got an apartment together that we shared.
Okay.
There were a few other 86 guys down there at Hood. We always said Hood is good. And Nick Bellucci was in an apartment next to us. Rick French. Dan Sauter was down there. Rick Minicozy was down there. And Joe and I, as soon as we landed, Joe's unit had to go out into the field. So me and my buddies went out, to the officers club and other local clubs, and we would run into the same women, um, you know. But long story short, I met Ingrid before Joe did, and as we're talking everything, I've never in my life tried to play matchmaker, and I don't think I was trying there. But I was telling her about Joe, and she was interested, and I said, "You've got to meet Joe. The two of you, I think." And just like the Sodders, they raised four great boys. Joe and Ingrid did, and
Uh-huh.
they've got a number of grandchildren, and they're
Yeah.
just the greatest, happiest couple.
Where did the name Weas come from?
So right from the beginning, plebe year, and especially into yearling cow year, I had a knack, a reputation for getting into trouble, sometimes getting caught, sometimes not, usually not, and but definitely weaseling my way out of it on many occasions. And so it originally started as Weasel, and it's shortened to Wheeze.
Got
There
it.
are a lot of classmates that don't know my first name is Bill.
I never did.
It's funny because if someone says Bill, other people in the room are like, "Who's Bill?"
Who's Bill?
"Oh,
Who's
you mean Wheeze."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's great. What well, nicknames are a pet peeve of mine, so that's an actual nickname. So that's an actual good nickname. Cool. So air defense artillery, living with Joe DePinto. Now did Joe and Ingrid get ramped up pretty quickly, or did you guys stay together for a while? How was your situation there?
Joe and I had a great time as roommates. Funny story. Uh, that was one of the big rages back then, if you remember, was king size waterbeds.
Mm-hmm.
So Joe and I each had a king size waterbed in our respective bedrooms.
Right.
Uh, Not long into our time together, Rick Minicozy moved in, and we didn't have a lot of room, but Rick moved in to basically our living room,
Right.
and we spread everything out, the couch, the furniture, and all that. And Rick put his king size waterbed in our living room, and when you would open the front door, it wouldn't go all the way open; it would bang into Rick's bed.
Because it
But
wasn't optional
the
to
three,
not have a king size waterbed. Like that was basic. You had to have one.
that was the cool thing. It was like having a cool car.
One of the forgotten things that is just fantastic how, as lieutenants, we all kind of just bunked up together because I was a
Yeah,
steward, same kind of thing. We were all, we would just, somebody would find a house and a bunch of us would end up there. You'd be at the O
yeah.
Club and someone would say, "Hey, we got a room, come on over." And I think I moved like 4 times when I was a lieutenant.
Oh, the other thing is, we were so poor on second lieutenant salary that you wanted someone to split the cost with.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but after about a year or so, Joe and Ingrid got serious enough that Joe moved out into a home with Ingrid,
Yeah.
and broke my heart. I guess there were some things that Ingrid was willing to do that I just wasn't willing to do for Joe.
Well, I've never known you as someone who had limits, but I guess we've found them.
We still text pretty much every day and talk on a regular basis, and I get to see them several times a year, which is always great.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and Joe was part of the G3 crew, so that's how we all met
Yes,
each other.
yes, and I
Yeah.
get to see Rico a lot as well.
So 6 years in the Army. How did that go, and how did you find the Army?
I really enjoyed my time in the Army. I started out at Fort Hood uh, with the Chaparral Vulcan Stinger, short range air defense, and then they needed Patriot officers. So I
Mhm.
went back to Fort Bliss where I did my OBC and weapons track, and I took the Patriot course. And then I spent what was going to be 3 years in Germany. It ended up being 5 years over in Germany as a Patriot officer, a stop off in the desert for about 6 months,
Just a little fluff
Shot
up.
down 5 SCUD missiles with my small team of 3. We shot down 5 SCUD missiles, and I actually enjoyed it. Now, I would never ever want to do it again. Just like West Point, I would never want to do West Point again. Beast Barracks, Plebe Year. I'd never want to be in combat again. But I will say that I enjoyed it, and I will especially say I'm very, very glad that I did it. Something I'm proud of. Each of those things.
Well, as someone who's on the targeting end or the targeted end of a Scud missile, I want to say thank you for your service because we were watching all that. And so you actually early on got some action. Good for you. That's great.
Yeah, definitely enjoyed it, and I'm still in touch with some of my soldiers from all those years ago. That was what 30 years ago.
And then getting out of the Army, what happened there? What was you thinking?
So I was, as much as I enjoyed it, I was anxious to get out as soon as I came back to from the desert to Germany. I got an offer to extend 1 year, go back to Fort Bliss, and teach the Patriot course to the new lieutenants, the course that I had just gone through, a couple years earlier. And I get back there, and I'm 26 years old. To me, I'm the same guy as these 22-year-old lieutenants.
Right.
But to them, I'm this combat veteran captain who's been in Desert Storm, et cetera, et cetera. So it was kind of strange for me that that they kind of looked up to me, as this mentor figure, which I had at that time had never been used to. But I enjoyed it. It was, it was a similar party to what OBC was to me. And, I was just part of it, part of their OBC and Patriot track. And then after that, I went to, one of the headhunter places, and General Mills is who I ended up with in sales.
Okay.
I was with General Mills for several years before I found that company, Lawson Products, that I mentioned.
So why sales? I mean, you're an affable guy and you have charisma. What was it about sales that attracted you?
I think oftentimes every day we are in the business of sales, and I don't care if it's you're talking with your neighbor, the relationship you have with your spouse, the relationship you have with your kids. Oftentimes it's like similar to sales. When I was interviewing with different companies, it seemed to me that the General Mills sales position just was a better fit for me than anything else. So I spent several decades in sales and sales management, and I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Now, did you travel a lot for that? Was it one of those, or was it? Talk a little bit about the lifestyle.
At the time, in the beginning with General Mills, it was only driving. Then, as I get into with Lawson Products, and I became a district manager, I was still driving. As a regional director, I flew a lot. And then when I ran the military government sales, I flew all the time. I had sales reps in Germany, Hawaii, anywhere that we had good military installation bases. So I got to travel to Germany and Hawaii quite a bit, which was really nice. It was fun for me to go back and see some of the military installations that I visited in Germany, in the 80s and 90s, to go back there and, well after 2000.
Yeah. And then what was it like learning the government system from the outside, selling to the government? Talk about that.
A lot of regulations, a lot of rules, and we had a lot of help from internal because, when I get into my position, the company obviously had been doing that for many, many years prior to me. So, we had, people who understood government compliance, and they understood the rules and regulations, what you can do, what you can't do. And a lot of it was repeat selling. Repeat sales sure, there were cold calling and trying to open up new accounts, but most of your business was repeat selling, and you're just going in there replenishing stock, and you're trying to get them to buy new items and companion products to the items that they're already carrying.
You're wearing the T-shirts because I know you're a bit of an activist for. There you go. So talk a little about the health scare you
So
had.
this T-shirt is specifically for breast cancer awareness.
Okay. There you go.
And I was diagnosed with brain cancer in 2017, and I had the surgery to remove the tumor. One of our classmates, Jeff Trayman, used to be a brain surgeon, and he was a tremendous help all throughout my surgery, post-surgery, chemo, radiation, that recovery. Jeff Trayman is just a great guy. I can't say enough about him. A lot of people know him as Mongo, and Jeff lives in the Denver area.
Mm-hmm.
He's northwest, quite a ways northwest of me, but he was a big help. And then I went through chemo and radiation 2018, 2019. I had 33 chemo treatments. All my hair fell out. It grew back, fortunately. But a lot of people really don't like their hair falling out. And I've even heard a couple people not want to do treatment because of that. And, my thinking is I was never good looking with hair, so why do I care? And so, it didn't bother me one bit. It didn't bother me one bit when my hair fell out, and I was not one hair on my head. And I had this scar that was so pronounced. It starts here. It's still there. And it goes back to here.
Yeah.
And then it curves around and it comes to here. And the scar is still there. And when I get my hair cut short, you can see it. During chemo, when all my hair fell out, that's all you could see. All you could see was this huge, scar. And I can remember telling my young nieces and nephews that I got bit by a shark, and just having some fun with that. But I will tell you, the chemo absolutely sucked.
Yeah.
And I have a lot of empathy for anyone, who has to go on chemo.
Endure that.
There were times I was always sick. There were times I can remember having to crawl out of my bed, crawl across the floor just to get to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Just being that sick. And, you're always tired, exhausted, fatigued, weak. And let me go off on a tangent.
Sure.
I have got this amazing streak going to this day, a Fitbit step streak, hitting my goal of 10,000 steps a day. And I actually started that after the radiation ended, but while I was on chemo. And that streak started on February 18th of 2017. I've never missed a day. I'm way over. I'm almost at 3,000 days, but I'm well over 7.5 years. And it's just something I do every day. I just make sure I get my steps.
Good for you. And that's
I don't work out. I don't run anymore. I used to run, but I move every day. I walk every day. I walk the dogs in the neighborhood. I'll have to see if I can. Get my 2 dogs up here with me.
Right. And so you're active in VFW and American Legion now. We were talking about that before we started today. Talk a little bit about your activity in that, and it's a long-term thing you've been doing.
Yes, it is. I'm a life member in both organizations. It's something that I'm very proud of. It's very rewarding to me to serve veterans. We do a lot of things for disabled veterans, families of deceased veterans, homeless veterans. We raise money, we help them. We have several members of our community, military veterans who passed away, and widows of veterans, and we get together and we do a lot of physical labor at their house, making sure that we take care of their lawn. If there's work to be done in their sometimes kitchen, basement, building, roof repair, things of that nature. And, we come together. I'm not a handyman, but we come together as a group and we all pitch in and we all, become handymen and women. So it's, to me, it's very rewarding to help veterans. And in a way, you're still serving.
And you've been doing this for many years.
I have. I became a lot more active when I moved to Colorado. That's when I became a life member. So I was paying the annual membership year after year after year for both organizations. When I got to Colorado and I met some of the men and women in our post and just really hit it off, very similar mindset, like values, I'm going to say Christian conservative, pro-military, pro-veteran, really hit it off with this group of people. That's what convinced me, I definitely want to become a life member and I want to contribute as much as I can. And I took a position in 2018, a one-year job as the quartermaster in a VFW, and I just extended and I did 5 full years. I just recently stepped down a few months ago when I found I was anxious because it's a lot of work, a lot of time and effort. And I found a very good replacement who's doing a fantastic job. So I just recently stepped down after 5+ years of being the quartermaster.
5 years is a good contribution, though, Weas.
Yeah. And it's something I'm very proud of, too, because, just taking care of veterans more than anything. I think it seems to me like it's 50-50. You have a lot of people who are so pro-military, pro-veteran, pro-U.S. flag, et cetera, but there are a lot out there that are not. And, you see people, I don't want to go off on the wrong tangent, but
Sure.
You see people not stand for the flag, not understand the importance of it and what it means to veterans. People who don't understand that there are so many families out there who all they have left of their dad, their husband, their son is a folded flag. That's all they've got left, and I mean, any awards that they had received. But, those things are precious and they mean so much, to those families. They
Absolutely.
mean so much to me.
Absolutely. If you look back in time, what advice would you give yourself maybe 20, 25 years ago, just looking back at a younger version of you? What advice would you give?
More than anything else, just not to worry. Don't sweat the small stuff because things will work out and they'll take care of themselves. And, people that know me well will say, well, you never, ever worried. Well, I did. I just didn't show it. I'll say I worried a lot more than I should, created a lot more stress than is needed, but just didn't show it.
Yeah. What do you do for fun? When will you knock off? Kind of what does the future hold for you in terms of enjoying yourself?
Well, now that I'm 60 in a few months, I have to start thinking of an exit plan for when I can retire and hang it up. I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with 7-Eleven. For the past year, I've been in the financial planning and analysis department, which is a lot of work, a lot of hours. I probably learned more in the last year in that department, about the way we go to business, the way we report financially, et cetera. Probably learned more in that last year than I did in the prior 4 years. The first year with the company, you obviously learn a ton. And so I'll say the first year and then especially this last year. But I will say, having Joe at the top, we've got some other classmates who are in 7-Eleven, pretty high up. Larry Hughes does a phenomenal job as a senior VP in HR. Jesus Delgado Jenkins has done great things for the company. So, we have a great class of 86 CNQ group within 7-Eleven. And it's, anytime, the rare times I get to see those individuals, it's always a pleasure.
Absolutely.
And, I never, ever, Joe is way up there that, we don't work together or anything like that, unfortunately. The joke that I tell when people say, oh, you work with Joe, I'm like, well, depending on which org chart you look at, he is either 7 or 11 levels above me.
Right. You really don't understand corporations if you say, oh, you and Joe we're hanging out working together, right? Yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
But he would take your call if you made it.
Oh, and he does.
Right.
And we never talk about work.
Right.
We never talk about work. We talk about the kids. We talk about the wives.
Absolutely.
Fortunately, our wives are great friends.
Yeah.
I've been very lucky to have a wife who is truly my better half. I definitely outpunted my coverage, and she's fantastic, very supportive.
You married well, right?
I did, and I do need to get my 2 dogs in here just so I can show them on
Absolutely.
camera.
Bring them in.
I have 2 little Shih Tzu dogs.
Bring them in. We got to get it in the podcast.
This is Fireball.
That's fantastic. Weas' best friend.
Fireball is a good boy. He was named after the cinnamon whiskey and one of my favorite shots. And it was well after he was named that we found that it also matches his personality, because he can be an absolute fireball.
There you go.
Can't you, buddy? I got to name Fireball.
Okay.
And my wife got to name Merlin.
Merlin. Okay.
King Arthur's wizard Merlin. So Fireball is the chunky one of the 2. He's short and stout, and he's older. He's 13 pounds.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, he's a big 13er.
Big 13.
I'll be right back with Merlin.
Yeah, go grab Merlin. And there we go. Merlin, ladies and gentlemen.
This is Merlin.
This is Merlin.
Merlin's a good boy.
Merlin's, you can tell the difference in personality just by watching him. That's great.
Big time. They're both so much fun.
Weas, it was great talking to you today. What a pleasure having you on your podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Pilaf. My pleasure.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Courage Never Quits podcast, where any member of the class of 1986 who is willing to tell their story will be a guest. To get the word out and to stay up to date on the latest episodes, hit the like and subscribe buttons. With 954 living graduates in the class, we have a lot of stories to collect, and you don't want to miss any of them. We'll see you in the next episode.